Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm putting together another DCS and IL-2 comparison, and today we're going to be looking at the Spitfire Mk IX. Both DCS and IL-2 have a Spitfire Mk IX, and I wanted to jump in here and show you guys what you get in each one of these platforms. So first off, let's take a look at what DCS offers in terms of content for the Spitfire that they have in the game. This is the background wallpaper that they give you and the period music, which I think is absolutely fantastic. It really does set the mood quite well. Let's go to instant action and let's find our Spitfire. And in the default map, you've got 5 missions. Nevada map, 6 missions, including a Vegas tour, which is nice. Normandy, only 5 missions. And Persian Gulf, no missions. Really didn't expect anything to be in the Persian Gulf, so not surprised by that. Let's go to mission and look under the basic mission set and see if there's anything. So for the default mission, you have a battle over the lake and then a Sochi Adler defense mission. Your flight is on patrol mission to the east of Kudasai. All of a sudden, you encounter enemy Focke-Wulf 190s. Alright, here we are in the mission they have provided for us. Uh-oh, a bunch of enemy bandits. We're in trouble, guys. There we go. Man, it takes a lot to kill the guys in here is what really sucks. The damage model in DCS, there we go, he died, finally. The damage model in DCS leaves a lot to be desired. And that is the biggest complaint that most people have with warbirds in DCS, is the damage model could be a lot better. Let's see if I can get behind this guy next. Now the one thing that DCS has over everybody else is fantastic flight modeling and graphics. The cockpit graphics are just absolutely unmatched. That was tight. Uh-oh. Now this thing is real twitchy at times. Come on, buddy. Uh-oh, I'm getting hit. I think I took some damage. Yep, mission failed. It's not going to end well. This other mission is the Sochi Adler defense. Enemy approaches the airfield from the southwest. Perform an emergency takeoff and intercept the attackers. This is where the DCS Spitfire becomes extremely problematic, because DCS is a hardcore simulation. Being that is the case, trying to taxi one of these things around the runway is almost next to impossible, because they model the realism of what it takes to taxi these things around. It's just not easy at all. You end up spinning, you've got to like just do this crazy thing where you've got to almost like be using the brake and the rudder and just the amount of RPMs just to taxi it around the runway and keep it in a straight line, and it never wants to stay in a straight line. it's just atrocious. It really is. And yeah, I know the real thing handled this way, and this is what you had to do in the real thing. But if you ask me, there's always just a few things in a simulation that you don't need to model and make difficult. And this, to me, is one of them. And I wish there was just a way to go, toggle that off. Let me handle this thing like a normal plane to taxi around the runway and to take off with it. And then don't get me started on trying to land with it. It's just too much work. Way too much work. Oh, wait a minute. There are no campaigns. Yes, they do not give you any campaigns whatsoever with the Spitfire. These two campaigns that I have right here, I had purchased. One of these is from Reflected Simulations. The other one, I can't remember who the designer was of that campaign, but these are paid DLCs, and they're fantastic. My biggest problem with them, and the reason I haven't gotten through them, is you've got to take off from the ground. And the Spitfire sucks to take off from the ground with. So here I have, you know, these campaigns are about $10 a piece, $5 when they're on sale. And the atmosphere within the campaigns are really amazing. It's pretty cool the work they put into this, but I've only seen the first mission because I can't get the fucking thing off the ground. And it's just too much work to figure it out. So, with the 2.5.6 update, it puts a lot of stress on a system performance-wise. So the guy over at Reflected Simulations has tweaked his campaign, which is pretty cool. So you see at the top it says use the F10 radio menu to remove units for better performance, because the new lighting system and the changes they've made to the Normandy map on top of that really cause a pretty big hit on the performance at times. And this is a really fantastic, well-written mission and everything. But again, the problem is I can't get these things off the ground. And it looks amazing. I mean, look at all the people walking around there doing their thing. Little truck kind of cruising along. Really sets the stage for what's to come, you know? Nicely done. We've got two planes over there getting ready to take off. And it looks fantastic. And the model of the Spitfire is just unmatched, man. Look at the detail on this thing. Absolutely outstanding. There's one that's already airborne. Now the other thing is, in the DCS version of the Spitfire, you can also use the clipped wing variant. I think it looks stupid, and I just don't like it, and I almost never use it. I don't see the point. But, to be fair, and to cover everything that it offers, you can't use the clipped wing variant if you want to. So the other thing is, as well, both of these campaigns that are out there that are paid DLC, you are required to own the World War II Assets Pack to use them. And the World War II Assets Pack is about $30. When it's on sale, it's about $15, which is manageable. But what it is it includes all these period objects, like that truck right there, like the little dudes that walk around, you know. Some of the buildings, just many objects that, you know, make the environment look more period specific and set up for World War II. So in the DCS World Warbirds ecosystem, I guess you could say, you know, you've got most of your modules are just as bare as this Spitfire. You know, some of the other ones come with a campaign, they call it a challenge campaign, and it just is a campaign that goes, okay, start off, okay, take off, next mission, land with wind, next mission, you know, maybe you fly through some rings, next mission, after a while you get some combat, but they're not content, if you ask me. So it's just, it leaves a lot to be desired. Now, that's not to say that the flight modeling isn't fantastic, because it is. Nothing else matches the flight modeling in DCS. Visually speaking, the cockpits are absolutely amazing. Super photorealistic. Just outstanding texture work, and the models that they've created to paste these textures on are just outstanding. And things in the cockpits in all of these modules are fully clickable. So you can go in here and you can press buttons and click things. And that's how you do your startup procedures in most of these, well, actually almost all of the aircraft. And I think the Flaming Cliffs 3 aircraft are some modern aircraft that don't have a clickable cockpit, but pretty much everything they've released since then is a high-fidelity module, and all of this stuff is fully manipulatable with your mouse. And it's up to you to learn every single thing in here to get the most out of it. Now that's something you cannot do in IL-2. Their cockpits are amazing, but they do not have any clickability whatsoever. There's the wheel brake. And yeah, the takeoff thing requires like pumping the wheel brake and hitting your rudder and giving it just the right amount of RPMs to maneuver this thing. And I can't figure it out, man. I get frustrated and I just want to rage quit. It's just too much work for me. So these missions where you have to start off from the ground, I've really never completed one because of that. And again, that should be like a toggle. That should be something you can go, hey, I don't want to use realistic ground operations. I just want to taxi this thing around a runway and take off. And like I said, I've never even attempted landing because those are just, that much more difficult from what I've heard as well. So, is what it is. I do the missions from in the air, and I have a great deal of fun with the Spitfire in DCS. It is a fantastic plane. It's probably my favorite warbird out of all the warbirds in DCS, to be honest. It just flies well. It's got some, it's got some punch with the cannon and the guns both, and it's iconic. I see a Spitfire, I think of Iron Maiden Aces High, But again, the part that's, depressing, I guess you could say, is the fact that if you want any content for this, you're going to buy a DLC, to have a campaign or create your own missions. And you can create your own missions. I'm not going to argue that. The mission editor in DCS is extremely powerful, and it's the same tool they use to create missions and campaigns with. And you can do that just the same, but again, it's another level of complexity and learning that you have to get into to get that far. So let's take a look at training missions. There's an engine start procedure, taxi and takeoff, landing, and aerial gunnery. So 4 training missions. And that's about it, guys. You've got a handful of instant action. You've got 2 missions, no campaign unless you purchase them, and 4 training missions. Let's take a look at the dogfight over Normandy for funsies. Very twitchy, very tough to line up a shot sometimes. And he's trying to line up on my partner there. And we can't have that. Hopefully I get him before this other jerk-off gets behind me and tears me up. Usually what ends up happening. Couple shots in on him. Oh, that was close. Uh-oh. Great, leave me with both of them. There we go. Hopefully he's going in, because the other guy is definitely behind me shooting at me. Yeah, he's done. But the other guy is probably going to kill me. Watch them G's. And he is going in. Where's his pal? Yep. I love the effect of negative G's in this. Almost sounds like something's pounding on your eardrums. Damn. There he is. Ooh, got him a little bit. A couple shots on him. Come on, buddy. Make a mistake. Come on. Oh, come on, right behind him. Probably almost out of airspeed to be really effective here. Come on, buddy. Couple more shots on him. Couple more. There we go. That should take care of him. Uh-oh. I broke my own plane. Good one. There we go. So, how's that for realistic flight modeling? Pretty good example, isn't it? This thing is finicky. Mission success. All bandits have been splashed. Just look at the lighting in the cockpit in this thing. Like I said, this really is my favorite module for warbirds in DCS. My biggest complaint, though, is taking off, landing, and taxiing just sucks. And I'm yet to figure it out. Maybe I'm just impatient and don't have the patience. So let's take a look at their Spitfire externally here. Guns, cannons. Guns, cannons. Both. Pretty devastating. It's definitely got some sick firepower. And I am not the best warbird pilot. I'm more of a jet guy. So if I could handle it and kill two bandits, then I think the average Joe has a pretty good shot with this thing. And in the hands of a more experienced pilot that knows really more about what he's doing in a warbird, this thing would be pretty lethal, I would suppose. But overall, it really is a fantastic module in DCS. There are a few other planes that some may argue are better, but I tend to think the Spitfire is my favorite out of the warbirds so far, even with the problems that I think it has. So I'm now in IL-2 Great Battles, and we're taking a look at the Spitfires that they have. Now the Battle of Bodenplatte brings the Mk IX into the mix, and there's a collector's plane as well, which is the Mark VB. But we're going to look at the Mk IX. I'm not sure entirely what the difference is between this and the one in DCS, because if you look up Spitfire and try to go down that rabbit hole, there's so many variants, it's just hard to figure out which ones are which and how they compare, because it was probably one of the most produced planes during the era. Alright, let's see what kind of options we have for the Mk IX. Let's go to modifications. Okay. Oh, we've got bombs. We've got rockets. We can get a gyro gun sight. I'll take that. We can get a mirror. Hey, they have the clip wing version too, but I don't see the point in that. Oh, and the Merlin engine. Let's take that as well. Now let's look at our paint schemes. U.S. Air Force One, Berg, Digala, Eleanor, Boudard, Glasser. Oh, that's kind of cool. Doris June II, East Indies, White 32, Gibbs. Uh-oh, one that's got shark teeth. You know I'm going to use that one. Savoy. Oh, that Savoy's pretty too, though. Plagueis, Johnson, and Klosterman. Man, there are some really nice ones in here, but I'm going with shark teeth because that's always pretty cool. And accept. Well, let's see what we got now. Alrighty. I think I'm a little too close to these guys to begin with.
Fighter spotted. It's close. Engage. Out.
Going down.
Target destroyed.
Boy, that didn't take much effort.
Range half mile. Out.
Definitely feels like the Spitfire in DCS. You always feel like you're kind of flying it to the edge a little bit. And she starts to let you know when you are, which is really nice. I enjoy the buffeting. You can hear and feel when you're pushing her too hard, too. And of course I missed that perfect shot. Why wouldn't I? Come on. Almost over G. So you can really feel when you push her outside of her limit. That's pretty much the same effect you get in DCS. Go a little bit of buffeting again. There we go. That's what I'm looking for.
Range about 1 mile. Fighter spotted. 8 o'clock. Range about 1
Going
mile.
in.
Engage. Out.
So one of the things they've done recently is they updated the renderer that they use in game. So it's a deferred renderer, and basically it's going to take advantage of your GPU more than the CPU at this point. So let's take a look at this beast. Now, in all fairness, version 4.006 of IL-2 was about a week ago, and in it, they changed the renderer. And in doing so, everything looks a lot better than it ever did. And just the texture details are popping now, the way they're rendering everything, the gun details, just everything looks better about it. And while I will say I think the DCS textures are a hair more photorealistic, they're getting goddamn close now in IL-2. As they release new products, like Battle of Bodenplatte is one of the last ones for IL-2, and it really, really shows that these guys continue to up their game. And just look at those textures. The pilot model looks pretty cool. The visuals of firing the guns look great. Really not much to complain about. Now let's take a look at the cockpit. Looks pretty familiar, doesn't it? And it's hard. You got to get the lighting just right to really show this stuff off the right way. But it looks pretty much just like it does in DCS, only the textures are different. And again, I've said this before, and I'll say it again, the textures and the art style of IL-2 is a little more hand-drawn versus DCS looks more photorealistic. However, I will say, with the new renderer and as they release new products, their texturing and details are starting to get a lot more, you know, they're bordering more on photorealism than they are that hand-drawn look anymore. And it could just be the color palette that they're using that really conveys this different art style, you know? But there's absolutely nothing wrong with the cockpit here. The only difference is you can't click anything in these cockpits. And up close, they start to get a little bit washed out and blurry. That aside, I think the detail level's a little bit higher in the DCS cockpits. But again, at a glance, and to look at this and to use the gauges and whatnot, it's very functional, and I see nothing wrong with it. And it looks like a fantastic Spitfire cockpit. And again, as you would expect, all the details, the pedals move, the stick moves, the throttle moves, all that. Just like it does in DCS, you just can't click anything in the cockpit. And it's a fantastic looking environment. And again, the external models and the rendering that they're doing now in 4.006 really has made IL-2 look a lot nicer than it ever did. Hey, mission accomplished. Looks like we got some ground targets here, so I'm going to go for some rockets for funsies. Take a mirror of the better engine. And let's see, I'm going to take a more classic looking Spitfire. Something like this guy. And to be fair, in DCS World you do have bombs and air-to-ground stuff that you can utilize just like you can in IL-2. So this isn't something that's exclusive to IL-2. We got a couple trucks up here, maybe. Boom. Very nice. Whoa, a little too close. Alrighty then. And then there's that. I'm consistent, if anything. Mission accomplished, even though I ditched a plane. How about that? So, let's talk about content. So, in IL-2, content's handled a little differently. You've got your quick missions, which is this scenario generator, and I can go here and pick the plane. and you go here and pick the map. So there's a lot more places to have fun. Now this is because I own Battle of Moscow, Battle of Stalingrad, Battle of Kuban. Some of these other ones come with the Battle of Baden-Platte. I have tank battles from IL-2, so I can get the maps that tank battles comes with. I have Flying Circus, so I have the Eris Spring 1918 map. And IL-2, like DCS, is just its own large ecosystem that you just plug things into. But I like their generator, so I'm going to go here and we're going to go Autumn of 1943. These are the different options and places. Now, granted, they're kind of static where you can go, but you can move around the map and you can zoom in or out. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to take a Spitfire and a P-47, and I can use that same scenario I just set up. And there's also tons of realism. I like no misfires. I have a warmed up engine, no engine stall, unlimited ammo. You can turn off all of these and make it even more realistic, but it's all about what you want. So, content for planes that don't participate in campaigns is kind of limited to this in IL-2. So ground targets, I could pick that I want ground targets everywhere, and they'll just be in there, which is nice. Weather and time, you can pick the time of day and the kind of weather that you run into. So it's very robust in terms of what you can do and how it sets it up for you. I like it. Scripted campaign. You can buy campaigns or participate in ones that you own. So these are two tank campaigns. This one, Sea Dragons, I'm not sure what this one is. 1943, Battle of Stalingrad. Yeah, this is a Stalingrad campaign. So it's not going to let me use my Spitfire. But Lightning Strikes is the free campaign they came out with for the P-38. These are the two campaigns they came out with for the Flying Circus stuff. But I can buy more content, just like you can in DCS. That aside, you can go to missions. Just like in DCS, there's a subcategory for missions. So the thing is, there's Battle of Stalingrad, Battle of Moscow, Battle of Kuban. For some reason, there is no Battle of Baden-Platte set of missions, and I never understood that. So I have the Spitfire VB that comes with the Battle of Kuban, which is the collector's plane for Kuban. I could use that over here. And then Battle of Moscow includes all the planes that come with Battle of Moscow, and they give you a nice little variety of missions that you can play with. Where a lot of the stuff goes on in this, and just like in DCS, you have a large multiplayer component, and you can go to multiplayer and utilize your Spitfire there as well. But for the most part, you're going to be doing the scripted campaign, quick mission, or missions. And like DCS, there isn't a lot of content for this right out the gate. But let's talk cost as well. So the collector's planes are usually about $20 a piece. This is one of the planes that comes with Battle of Baden-Platte. And it's not a collector's plane. It's one of the 8 that you get with it. I think at the least when Battle of Baden-Platte was on sale not long ago, it was down to, I want to say it was like $20. And that came with both collector's planes, which was the Dora and the Lightning. So the basic version I've seen as low as like $12 for any of these Great Battles series, which is basically everything you get minus the 2 collector's planes. So cost wise, to get into a Spitfire, it's a lot more inexpensive when on sale to get Battle of Baden-Platte versus the DCS on sale. The Spitfire Mk IX in DCS is going to set you back $25 because it's a $50 module when it's not on sale, and that's just for the plane and what couple missions they gave you, and that's about it. But again, the thing to keep in mind is that, you know, the DCS stuff is definitely a few notches better in flight modeling, in the realism of the flight modeling. The terrain, I think, is a little more photorealistic in DCS World. The cockpit detail is definitely a few steps ahead of what you've got in the Great Battles series. But when it comes to pure fun and accessibility, that's where you get back to IL-2 Great Battles. And the sad truth is Great Battles has the lockdown on the warbirds in the World War II genre for flight sims. DCS is trying, but they're just not there yet. But that's not to say they won't be one day. You know, the DCS, in their defense, they've put a lot of effort into that World War II assets pack. And they just recently released a ton of more objects that you can utilize in the mission editor and that can be used in missions that have already been created. But then there's that, right? You've got to buy something extra. So to get a campaign, it's $5 or $10. To get the World War II assets pack, it's either $15 or $30 depending on sale or not on sale. It's just a more expensive ecosystem is what it comes down to. So for probably under $80, you can own pretty much everything when it's on sale, aside from maybe a couple of the collector's planes that aren't on sale at the time. For the Great Battles series in the IL-2 library. That same amount of money will get you maybe 2 modules and a World War II assets pack and a map if you're lucky in DCS World. Taking off and taxiing around a runway, it can be just as frustrating in IL-2 as it can be in DCS. I think it's a little bit easier in IL-2. But still, that is modeled. So taking off and landing this plane in any of the simulations is no fun whatsoever because it's modeled realistically. DCS is definitely the more realistic of the two. Visually speaking, it's a little bit more photorealistic than IL-2's version. But as you can see with the addition just last week of the new renderer that they're using, I think they've upped their game considerably and they are a lot closer to being as good as what you're going to find in DCS visually speaking. I think the terrain is the only thing in IL-2 that still has a very good hand-drawn look to it, but it doesn't look quite as photorealistic as what you're going to find in DCS. But I think they're both fantastic. I love to fly the Spitfire in DCS World. That's my favorite warbird. I'm loving it, and I still have a great deal of fun in it. I think the flight model is definitely more realistic, though, in DCS. It definitely buffets more. It tells me what's going on a little more. They have that modeled in IL-2 as well. But I don't know. If you had both, you would be able to see the differences. If you had one and didn't have the other, I don't think you'd be sad. You know what I mean? It's subtle, I think. But overall, you know, cost-wise, accessibility, of course, the IL-2 Great Battles one is definitely the hands-down winner. In terms of, you know, having as realistic as it gets and price is no object, then of course the DCS World is the one you're going to go for. But, you know, content-wise, you really don't have much to work with in DCS. And you have to buy other assets to really get the most out of it. So I'm going to leave it at that, guys. This is the Spitfire Mk IX in IL-2 Great Battles, and earlier in the video, that is the Mk IX in DCS World. I hope this comparison has been helpful. Again, both of them are really kick-ass in air-to-air. Both of them can do air-to-ground and have ordnance for that. And it's just a matter of what you're looking for, I think, in an ecosystem and what you're looking for to spend, really, overall, if you want to get into a Spitfire. Both are fantastic options. So I'm going to leave it at that, guys. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Feel free to hit that like button. And until next time, guys.